Hello and welcome back to Disney Journey. I'm retired Imagineer Jim Schull, and on this episode, I want to share with you something that is really impactful. Whenever you're Disney Imagineering, you bring everything from your life into your work. And in that way, when I became a parent, well, it led directly to the creation of Gadget Go Coaster at Mickey's Toontown.
The Disney parks have had roller coasters since the 1950s, but the focus has been on major coasters, adult size, those with height restrictions, even those that have loops or launches. The roller coasters are fun, but not for everyone because the restraint systems and the forces of each of the coasters really does limit the people who'd want to ride them. A family coaster is what was called for. And so the project team was assembled, we did the research, and we set out from WDI for a research trip.
The team's first stop was Helsinki, Finland, by way of Frankfurt, where we had to sit in an airport for several hours. When we landed in Helsinki, we were dog tired. And so I went to my hotel room. Now, no one had told me that this was the longest day of the year, so I couldn't have hours of darkness to sleep in. I could have just minutes. But nevertheless, the next day we trudged to the top of the hill to see this park.
In another park was a version of the Vekoma roller skater that we came to see. This was a custom installation, and after we were done, we headed to the airport to make the flight to, well, the center of Germany, to a beautiful family fun park called Rotziland. Now this truly was kind of bucolic because it was set in the middle of farmland, and it was a very simple layout. The word best to define Rotziland is charming. The area has grown up since then, since my visit, but then it was a very beautiful little family park set in the middle of farmland. More of a beer garden with a few rides than a major theme park. But what was interesting about it is they had a relationship with Vekoma, and Vekoma had the roller skater in their catalog. It was an attempt by them to go and build a family roller coaster, a first coaster for families and children, if you will. And so they had the first installation of this design, and this was our prime mission on this trip. The project team disembarked, went to the theme park, looked at this bubblegum pink coaster, and here we were, the little team who rode and inspected and looked at it. Rotziland's management was laid back, even to the point of storing the leftover bubblegum pink paint underneath the load station. But our purpose was to ride, and as we rode and rode and rode, I could see the designs that I was developing would match up very well with the track layout that they had as standard. And so we took that track layout and I pitched it to the project team, they accepted it, and so work began. The first thing, as all things, I had to draw a plan. I drew this fun map. Next, I plugged in the show elements into the standard track design. And those were carried over for the development and the construction of the roller skater there in Anaheim, California as part of Mickey's Toontown. Now, I like to say I contracted with only the best companies, because when you're building for tunes, you got to build with tunes. Anywho, the station started to develop, models were made, studied, revised, and the lift machine was developed. What wasn't built though was a set of Tinker Toys, because Tinker Toys are owned by another company and we never got the rights. We did get the rights, and you can see them today in Toy Story Land. Back to the Go Coaster. The coaster itself, the chassis, could be anything. And so I started working and drawing this, and modeling this, and overseeing the fabrication of this. What was now the Gadget Go Coaster became that because it was going to tie directly into Chip 'n Dale's Rescue Rangers, a Disney syndicated television show. Anyway, the coaster vehicle was an acorn, and it had to be fitted onto the chassis. Soon I was sitting in flow drop in my own rideable acorn. Disney had agreed to buy a standard roller skater, but those things aren't in the back room in a warehouse waiting for an order to roll in. No, those things have to be built. So I spent many hours there in the factory and flow drop at Vekoma to supervise and, well, get a good education that would serve me well for decades on how to build steel tubular roller coasters. All of that was crated over to Anaheim, and the installation began. We put in the track, we put in the building, and we worked, well, seemingly out of sequence, but it all worked out in the end because we got everything in. And there was a little bit of extra work because, well, as I said, when you're building with tunes, you got to go with the tune. The plans I drew have a lot of in-jokes and also the names of the project team members. It was a great project, but all projects have to open, and so did Mickey's Toontown. The day came when Toontown was dedicated, and we had the entire team out, and we took our bows and turned it over to the guests, who from day one really enjoyed it. I had a lot of people come up to me appreciating the fact that finally they told me we have something that everyone in our family can enjoy. Because up till that point, if you had a preschooler, there really was no reason to go to Disneyland, not if they like coasters. Tokyo Disneyland took note of the success of Toontown, and soon the second Toontown was headed across the Pacific.
The second Toontown landed in Tokyo on vacant land. And it's exactly the same as Anaheim, except it's mirrored. For whatever reason, everything that's on the left in Anaheim is on the right in Tokyo. And there are some additional scenes, and there was a little bit of more queue for Roger Rabbit. But it did have Gadget Go Coaster, which is phenomenally successful, because who doesn't love a good junior coaster?
Not long after the announcement was made, Mickey's Toontown appeared on the Disneyland Fun Map. Guests could go into what was formerly vacant land through this, well, massive gatehouse. And the purpose it served was because there was no train to go underneath. Not there in Tokyo Disneyland, at least. And as I said, it's a mirrored layout with some modest changes, although probably if you walked in there, you wouldn't really notice what the changes were. The Tokyo version of Go Coaster has a covered bridge and different landscaping. It's basically the same, but there's another roller skater in Tokyo that's totally different. And that's Mermaid Lagoon at Disney Sea. The idea behind Mermaid Lagoon is one day the tide went out and it revealed to everyone Triton's Castle. Inside Triton's Castle were a number of flat rides and a theater show, but outside there were two rides. A flat spinning ride. It's a lot of fun. It's unique, and it's the only one in any of the Disney parks. It's kind of a weird little scrambler where you face forward, and then at a point you turn around and you face backward, and you kind of spin mildly. It's very much a family ride. Right next door is the family coaster based upon the roller skater. Although this one's unique because it has a custom layout. It's an extended layout. It does have the same, well, the bogey system. It does have a new sculpted vehicle for the guests to ride in, and it's sunk down as if, well, again, when the tide went out, it revealed all of these different rides out in front of Triton's Castle. It's a very mild ride, but it's a fun ride. And it's definitely an enhancement for a park that needs a lot of ride capacity. As I said, it's amazing how Go Coaster spawned all these different variations, and this is the most unique of all of them. The next installation of Go Coaster went into the most obvious location, which was Mickey's Birthday Land, which became Mickey's Starland. Neither one of those identities had much more than a train station, a playground, and a character greeting.
The Barnstormer in Florida is the exact same track layout as everywhere else, except it's a different location. And it may be the first example of adaptive reuse in any Disney park. The location was on Grandma Duck's farm, and there was already a barn there, which had live animals. Now, they decided to put the coaster and have it intersect with the barn, except they got rid of the live chickens and put in fake animated chickens. Later on, the Barnstormer changed again for Storybook Circus. And now there's no barn, and there's certainly no chickens.
The news was spread that Mickey's Toontown Fair was coming to Florida, and it was going to get a new marquee in the same location that the previous marquees had been. The toilet went into a gas station, which to this day makes me laugh. The barn became part of the Barnstormer coaster and was incorporated, with the coaster going through it. Today there is no barn, even though the name is still the Barnstormer. There are lots of ways to measure design success. Did it open? Did people like it? Did it roll out into other parks around the world? Was the process easy? Was it pleasant? Did it have a good marketing hook? Did people respond? Did they like it? And more importantly, will they come back? And most importantly, does the idea endure? Mickey's Toontown opened more than 3 decades ago and went around the world in various forms. The Go Coaster, the family coaster, inspired not just Disney, but other parks as well that started picking up the design to put their version in. It's unique, it's fun, it's definitely something for all ages. And did it meet the need of the park? Did it fill a gap that the park had had? Was the project delivered on time and on schedule? By each of those measures, the family coaster became successful in the Disney parks. I was happy to be part of it, proud even. What started as lines on paper on my desk allowed me to go out into the field and shepherd the creation of the Go Coaster. But the truth is, without my inspiration, Gadget Go Coaster would never have occurred at all.
And that brings this episode of Disney Journey to a close. If you haven't already, go and subscribe. And if you have subscribed, well, good job you. Until the next time then, it's goodbye from Lost Canyon.